16th of December, Rabbi Furst, Parsha Hashavua, Vayeshev.
Okay, right. Thank you, Louis. Again, as Rabbi said, Rabbi Shlomo Furst, Yeshiva Samanafshi here in Yerushalayim Kiryat Zoom. This is our Erev Shabbat Chumash Shir. Vayeshev Shana Shin Shin Pei Gimel. Very good. Okay, well, let's start. Maybe we'll start from the for the end of the parsha, and then try and maybe work ourselves way back. Excuse me. You want to take a look at chapter Mem, first pasuk, Aleph, Mem Aleph. Take a look there. This is dealing with Yosef. Yosef. Now, a lot of things have happened since then. That's why we're kind of starting at the end, and like I said, we'll work our backwards through the parsha. So parsha Mem, first pasuk starts with V'acher hadavarim ba'ela. Yeah, it's anyone would like to read a bit. We'll see the psukim and some Rashis as well.
What have I got on? Is that did you say is that Vayehi Achar?
Yes, that's exactly very good.
Okay.
Go ahead, Ray.
All right. For a bit anyway. Vayehi Achar Adavarim Ha'ele Chatu'u Mashkei Melech Mitzrayim Va'ofech La'adonaihem L'melech Mitzrayim. And it came to pass after these things that the butler of the king of Egypt and his baker had sinned against the Lord, the king of Egypt. V'yaktsov para al shnei sarisov al so hamashakim v'al so ha'afim. And Pharaoh was angry against two of his eunuchs, against the officer of the butlers, and against the officer of the bakers.
Go ahead. Yeah.
Vayitain asom b'mishma v'shar hatavachim el beis acher mashom asher Yosef asur shom. And he put them into the ward of the house of the officers of the executioners, into the prison house, the place where Yosef was bound.
Okay, good. So let's stop here. Let's go back to the first pasuk Aleph and look at the Rashi there. Let's see. You see, there's not the. Let's leave the first part of the Rashi alone for now. Look at the second part of the Rashi. Chotu, they sinned, right? The butler and the baker sinned against Pharaoh, right?
Yeah.
So take a look what Rashi says there.
Where did that start from?
The chatu that they sin, right? That's the part of the pasuk Rashi is explaining.
Ze nimsa zavuv b'parayeli V'shatrin shelo. V'zo Namtso Soror Bigalus Kin Shelo. All right, so what's that in English?
Sure.
Was that the nimsa, the term by the term interpretation, or
Before that, Nimsa, this was found what? Before we get to any target.
all right, okay. Just maybe I can hear better. Maybe I can hear better with just like that. Oh, sorry, say that again, please.
Yeah, the Rashi. Just start with the Rashi's Katu. They sinned. What was their sin? The Torah doesn't go into explaining what their sin was. So Rashi wants to tell us what was their big sin. They got thrown into the they're on death row over there in Mitzrayim, right? So it must have been something very serious that they did. The Torah didn't explain what they did it?
Oh, I'm looking at the wrong place. All right. All right. So he had sinned. In this case of the one, a fly was found in the goblet of the aromatic wine. And in the case of the other, a pebble was found in the loaves he baked. And the baker of the king's bread, the root of is only used for baking bread. Old French pistol.
Okay, so that doesn't concern me too much about the interrogating the words. So tell me what were the big sins that they had done against Pharaoh over here?
Sorry, I'm having difficulty getting. I can hear you. I'm sorry, but the tenor of the transmission is difficult. Sorry. So what are we looking for?
Yeah, I want an explanation. How do you understand what they did wrong? What was their sin? What do you say, Lou? They did something wrong around here?
Oh yeah, terrible. Are you kidding me? There's a fly in the wine, and I think the worst one is the pebble in the bread. Imagine you chomp down on the piece of bread, and all of a sudden, crunch.
There go your teeth.
Yeah,
Yeah, actually, that's pretty terrible.
So it was neglect of their duties, of their shomer.
But with the wine, the fly could have landed in the cup right before he handed it to Paro. So it wouldn't be such a bit negligence. But pebble, that goes back to the process of sifting and preparing and kneading, and he really should have discovered that.
Unless someone framed him.
Even so, he's handling the bread.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if it wasn't a frame up, but on the other hand, with the fly, right? The fly, you can see it readily, right? You are, even if you're about to give Paro the curse, and the fly flies in it, so he should have done something that he didn't do, right? What did he give Paro the curse with a fly in it? Say, excuse me, master, I have to get you another cup. This is why, because a fly fell into it. Right?
Maybe he was scared to say that.
Well, that's what they say. When a person's too much of a despot, he gets himself into trouble because people are afraid of of opening up to him. Right? It doesn't pay to be a despot. Right? That it's not profitable. You lose out sometimes by being a despot. Not always to your advantage. And so you have on one hand, right, that there may be the stone in the flour in the dough was more of a negligence than the fly in the cup, but nevertheless is obviously more apparent. You're looking at holding a cup. If what would you do if you're making kiddush tonight and a fly flies into the cup you're making kiddush? Are you going to continue on making kiddush? You say, "Excuse me," stop in the middle and pour out the wine and get yourself another cup of wine, right? So why didn't the butler do that? The obvious, he's a trained butler. I'm sure he didn't become the butler of Pharaoh for no reason whatsoever. I'm sure that it's not such a very highly specialized job. I'm sure there were many people in Mitzrayim could have been the butler for Pharaoh. So, number one, aside from trying to understand what the basic wrongdoing was here, right? There's another thing to mention and to point out that you see that this was done with extreme hashgacha pratis. Kadosh Baruch Hu's intervention here is very specific, isn't it? That both of these things should occur on the same day, right? Both of these things should occur on the same day, and usually, as we said, we're talking about people who are professionals. They're hardly qualified, highly responsible people. They didn't get to be the royal baker and the royal wine steward for nothing. They must have obviously been outstanding in their abilities, right? Didn't Stam just take someone from the street to do baking for Pharaoh and to start serving him his wine. They must have been very outstanding. Nevertheless, in spite of their great expertise, when a Kadosh Baruch Hu wants something to happen, something's going to happen, even though it might be highly unusual, right? It's not only highly unusual that the fly should fall specifically straight into the cup that Pharaoh was drinking, and that there should be a rock in the flour or bread that Pharaoh was eating, and it should happen simultaneously at the same time, in the same day, in the same place, with the same person, right? So that's a tremendous hashgacha pratis. That's a very extreme example of divine intervention, right?
But not only that, the thing that went wrong warranted them to be put into prison.
Right.
Yeah, exactly. not sort of kicked out of the court altogether or anything like that.
Right. And it happened to be that they were sent into the same prison as Yosef was there, right? And the whole purpose of these things, that fly, right? That fly, that stone were instrumental in Yetzias Mitzrayim, in the Jewish people coming out of Mitzrayim, and so to speak, even further down the line to coming to Har Sinai and Kabbalah Torah, and then finally 40 years later coming into Eretz Israel and then building the base of Mikdash. That fly and that stone were part of the establishment of Klal Yisrael.
Okay, I can't resist this. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I can't resist this. My apologies. Waiter, there's a fly in my soup. What's he doing there? Backstroke.
Right, he was doing the backstroke, right? But, remember that a good joke lasts forever.
Yeah. You must have had that when you were a kid.
Yeah, we all heard it.
I remember it from then too. All right.
And what is the stone say? What is the stone? What are you doing in the flour?
I don't know. What's he doing in the flower? We have to think up of a good line.
Okay, very good. So this is a part of a Kadosh Baruch Hu's plan. This rock and this stone is a part of a Kadosh Baruch Hu's plan. Let's continue on with the psukim. So now they wound up in jail, right? They wound up in jail, right? So that brings us to pasuk. Dalit. Pasuk Dalit. Let's see pasuk Dalit.
Right then. Umani Rav Kotor. Oh no, what am I doing? I'm reading Onkelos. All right, sorry, I'm not with it. Gimel Daled. Where's Daled? Oh, here it is. Vayipkod Sar Tavachim Es Yosef Itom Vayeshores Asom Vayiyu Yomim B'mishmar. And the officer of the executioners charged Joseph with them, and he ministered unto them, and they were a year in ward. Vayechalimu Cholom Shanaim Ish Cholmo Belayla Echad Ish Kafisron Cholmo Hamashke V'Hotche Asher Lemelech Mitzrayim Asher Asurim Bebeis Hasha. And they dreamed a dream, both of them, each man his dream in one night, each man according to the interpretation of his dream. The butler and the baker of the king of Egypt, who were bound in the prison house.
One more pasuk. I think the next pasuk is what we'll concentrate on. Good.
V'yovel Elohim Yosef b'boker v'yareh Asom v'hinom v'afim. And Joseph came into them in the morning, and when he saw them, behold, they were troubled.
Oh, okay. And so he saw that they were troubled, right? Saw that they were troubled. So he paid attention. He saw that their faces were downcast. They weren't happy about their dreams, right?
Right.
Now, Kadosh Baruch Hu made them have those dreams. Again, he had them make those dreams simultaneously, right?
Mm-hmm.
But where again, we always want to look and see where does the Bechira come in? Where's Bechira? So now the Bechira here is that Yosef shows he had free will to ignore these people. After all, they were just some Mitzrayim there in jail with him. He could have gone about his business and just ignored them. He had no reason to pay attention to them, right? But he exercised his Bechira in being interested in their situation. So we noticed that they weren't so happy that day, right, in the morning. And I mean, look, to tell you the truth, I mean, who on death row would be happy? What you expect people to go around smiling each and every day? They're on death row. I don't know.
Mm.
But I guess that day they were extra unhappy. Let's see one more pasuk. Go ahead.
Vayeshev es. Oh, no, the one before that, is it? So, Zion.
No. Oh, yeah.
Zion, isn't it? Vayeshev es Sarisei Para Asher Ito B'mishma Beis Adonov Lema Madav Donahim Raim Hayom. And he asked Pharaoh's eunuchs that were with him in the ward of his lord's house, saying, "Why are your faces sad today?"
Oh, okay, so now, right, this question of Yosef asking them why they're not so happy looking today, this is the beginning of Yetzias Mitzrayim, right? I mean, remember, we have to realize the whole purpose in the whole situation with Yosef and his brothers, him being sold down to Mitzrayim, and it was not simply an exercise in having the family being broken up, and Yosef and Mitzrayim, the rest of the brothers are there with Yaakov Avinu. This was HaKadosh Baruch Hu's plan, right? How we would be fulfilling the promise that HaKadosh Baruch Hu made to Avraham Avinu in the breast of Besarim. And we would go down to a place, didn't mention to Avraham Avinu the place, but now it's becoming clearer and clearer, day by day, situation by situation, that the place we were going destined to be slaves and enslaved in was in Mitzrayim. And this is the beginning of bringing Yaakov Avinu and his family down to Mitzrayim, right? Kadosh Baruch Hu is orchestrating everything in order that the final result, that Yaakov Avinu and his family, all the Jews that existed at the time, were now entrenched in Egyptian society. And the way to do that was first getting Yosef down there, right? And that wouldn't have been enough, right? Yosef had to be in a position of power, right? He had to be brought to the highest levels of Egyptian power and authority, and he was, and that was a result of these dreams, and dreams were as a result of the fact that the baker and the butler were in the same prison as Yosef, and it resulted from the fact that they were in that prison because they were sinning against Pharaoh, and because they had a rock in the flour and a fly in the soup, in the wine rather, and a fly in the wine. And these were the things that HaKadosh Baruch Hu was using to orchestrate tremendous things, which will lead to even more wondrous and absolutely earth-changing, history-changing events like Matan Torah and the Yetzias Mitzrayim and coming into Eretz Yisrael. So these were all things that were done by HaKadosh Baruch Hu. But as I mentioned, the point of Bechira, it all rested on Yosef's Bechira. The fact that Yosef decided to pay attention to the fact that the butler and the baker were not looking very happy that morning, that was his choice. And it was from that point on that began the coming up out of Mitzrayim and into all those, as I said, earth-changing, humanity saving things, such as the Kabbalah Torah and coming into Eretz Yisrael, Yetzias Mitzrayim for the Jewish people. So the Bechira, which was put into place, and the catalyst for all these things, was Yosef's interest in the butler and the baker, and I'm trying to understand they weren't such happy people. Okay. Let's we can back up. Let's go back to the beginning of the Parsha. That would be Lamed Zayin Pasuk Aleph.
Vayeshev Yaakov be'eretz Megurei Aviv be'eretz Canaan, and Yaakov lived in the land of his father's sojourning in the land of Canaan. Ela Taldos Yaakov Yosef ben Sheva Asera. These are the progeny of Jacob, Joseph being 70 years old. Asera Shana, Hayar Ra'eh Es Echav Betzon, Vahu Na'ah Es B'nai Bilha, Ve'es B'nai Zilpah, B'nai Naseh Aviv, V'yaveh Yosef Es Devoson, Ra'ah Es Avihim. So he was 17 years old. He was feeding a flock with his brethren, and the lad was with the sons of Bilhah, and with the sons of Zilpah, his father's wives. And Joseph brought unto his father their evil report.
Very good. So again, now this is all Bechira, right? These two people are talking about Bechira, free will, right? Nothing here that it's indicated that Kaddish Baruch is orchestrating anything here. This is free will, correct? Okay.
Vayisrael Ahav Es Yosef, Mikol Benav Ki Ben V'konim Hu Lo V'yoseh Lo Kasone Pasim.
The son is person, right? That's the code. Yeah, go. You could translate that if you like.
Now Israel loved Joseph more than all his children, because he was the son of his old age, and he made him a long-sleeved garment. Yaru Ahov Ki Oso Ahav Avihim Mikol Ahavov Vayisna'u Oso Velo Yokolu Devoro L'Shalom. And when his brothers saw that their father loved him more than all of his brethren, they hated him and could not speak peaceably to him.
So now the fact that they hated him, right? The fact that they hated him, that's also Bechira. That's Bechira, right? That's Bechira, free will. And the fact that that Yaakov gave Yosef the coat, and that he loved him more than favored him more than the other brothers. That's also Bechira, right? So you see that the Sina, right? The Sina was caused. I mean, again, this is Pashut Pshat, because of the apparent favoritism of Yaakov Avinu towards Yosef, which was, again, that's an act of Bechira, free will. And the sina, the hatred, also is a act of free will. All right. But now let's go to the next pasuk.
That's Vov.
Yeah. I think hey.
Hey. V'yichalom Yosef Chalom v'yaged le'echov v'yosufu od shono oso. And Yosef dreamed a dream, and he told his brothers, and they continued still more to hate him. V'yomer Elohem Shim'u no Chalom Hazeh Asher Halomti. And he said to them, "Here I pray you this dream which I have dreamed." So he tells them that.
I want to ask something. Do you think the dream is in the category of hashgacha, meaning divine intervention, or it's in the realm of free will?
No, the dream must be hashgacha because first of all, it's very difficult to control your dreams, and secondly, the dream was obviously was a message, so that who's going to give him a message? He's going to give a message to himself.
So he went ahead and told his brothers about the dream, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that's something which is free will already, right?
That part is free will, yes.
Yeah, that part is free will, and the hatred, right? It said, the pasuk said, they, because of the dream, they hated him. Actually, they hated him even more.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So that extra hatred is all stemming from acts of free will. Joseph's act to of free will to tell them the dream, and their free will response to the hearing of the dream.
The order here says gives them that they hated him more, and yet he hasn't told the dream yet. I don't know if that's significant. It's just a matter of how it's said.
Yeah, well, I mean, the order of the psukim is a little bit needs a little bit deeper understanding. But Yosef had a chalom. He dreamed a dream, and he told his brothers, and Yosef, they hated him even more because of the dream. And then it says Shimu no chalom hazeh asher chalamti, and then the pasuk goes on to the description of the chalom. So the first pasuk is sort of like a preface to the whole introduction of the situation of the first dream.
Mm.
But you're right. It's not from the psukim. It's not clear. Yeah.
Right. Zion, is that right?
Yeah.
והנה אנחנו מעלמים אלומים בסוך השדה והנה כמה אלומסי וגם ניצבו והנה ססובנו אלומסיכם ותשתחוון. No, is that right?
Right. They bowed down.
Yeah, so I was trying to wonder whether yud comes into the pronunciation. Anyway, la'alumosi. 7. For behold, we were binding sheaves in the midst of the field, and lo, my sheaf arose and also placed itself upright, and behold, your sheaves surrounded and prostrated themselves to my sheaf.
Okay, very good. Let's continue on.
Maru lo achav hamoloch. No, hamol. Oh yeah, hamoloch. Timoloch aleinu im mashal timashul benu v'yosefu od shana asor al chalamosov v'al devorov. Can't find.
So now this is a bit of an interpretation of the dream. Now look how they respond, and what do they say about the dream? Go ahead, you can read it in English.
And his brethren said to him, shall you really reign over us, or shall you indeed have dominion over us? Know what the difference is. And they continued to hate him still more for his dreams and for his words.
Good. Okay. So that's all again Bechira. That's all Bechira.
V'chelom od cholom. Acha v'saper oso l'uchov v'yomer hine חלומתי חלום עוד והנה השמש והירח ואחר עשו ואחד עשו כוכבים משתחווים לי. And he dreamed yet another dream and told his brothers and said, behold, I have dreamed a dream more. And behold, the sun and the moon and 11 stars prostrated themselves to me.
Okay, good. That's the dream. And now what's the response?
Yud. Vayesaper el aviv. Va'el achov v'yigal bo aviv v'yomer lo ma ha'chalom hazeh asher halamoto habo novo ani v'imcho v'achecho להשתחוות לכל ארצו. And he related it to his father and to his brethren, and his father rebuked him and said to him, what is this dream that thou hast dreamed? Shall I and thy mother and thy brethren indeed come to prostrate ourselves to thee on the earth? Vayakanu bo achol va'aviv shema es hadavor. And his brothers envied him, but his father observed the matter.
Oh, so now something changed here. You see, it says that they had kina, they envied him. Right? They envied him. Not that they hated. Up until now, it's been talking about hating, right? But now there's a switch, and now there's an envy, right?
Which is worse?
That is a very good question. That is an excellent question. I'm not sure. They're both midos roles. They're both bad midos. And I'd have to I'd have to look and see if I can find some statements that give some type of a explanation of which is worse. Hatred. I would assume hatred is worse than envy.
Wouldn't envy lead to hatred?
Not necessarily so.
Oh.
Not necessarily so. Let's say a person envies I don't know, a movie star. They wish that they had all that fame and fortune, or that movie star, that sports figure, right? They might envy him. Doesn't mean that they're going to hate him,
Right.
right?
Mm-hmm. I suppose it also depends on whom you envy, the relationship of that person to you.
Yeah. Explain that a little bit further. What do you mean by that?
Well, to a movie star, you wouldn't, you might envy them, but that's as far as it goes. But to your brother, in this case here, you not only envy him, but you feel left out yourself, and that could lead to a deep dislike and to a hatred.
Yeah. Now, okay. So good. With that statement, with what you said, you're reminding me. There is a chazal. I have to try and look it up. There is a chazal that Bali Umnus, meaning people in the same trade, right? I think that it mentions there that people in the same trade hate each other. I'm not sure. I'm not sure if it says that they hate each other, that they're jealous of each other. I'd have to take a look and see what the exact lashon of the chazal it says. I have to look around and search around to find it. That the people in the same trade, by nature, they're envious, or they have hatred towards one another. I'm not sure exactly what the quote is, so I don't want to. Maybe I'd have an answer for you by next week. If I remember to spend time to try and find out about that. But that might be helpful in trying to understand what the difference is here. Because as you said, the person, like for example, if you're a sports player yourself, right? If you're a professional sports player, and you didn't get the player of the award that year, right? So you're obviously jealous of the one that did, right? You would. It's possible, something that's possible for you to achieve, and you didn't achieve it, and somebody achieved it instead. So there you have a certain kina. You have a certain kina, a jealousy for that. Whether you would have a certain hatred, whether you have a hatred for that, I don't know. Like, let's say he's on the same team as you, right? Right. So so since he's on the same team of you, you may not necessarily have a hatred for him, but you'd have jealousy. If he's on an opposing team, then you might have hatred as well. Right? So as with any human emotion, it's obviously complex.
Right.
So that's something to try and think and learn more about. As in Hashem, we'll see. See if we can get to that sometime. I'll see if I can't find that chazal. If people in the same trade have jealousy of one another. Obviously, when you see someone in the same business as you and he's doing better than you, the natural reaction is that you're jealous. But again, if you realize that everything is really hashgacha pratis, his success is because Hashem is choosing him to be more successful than you, and that's what is. But again, you still could be jealous of him, even knowing that and having betoken and understanding hashgacha pratis, that all comes from Hashem. You could still have a reasonable jealousy and even hatred because Hashem is favoring him better and more than you are.
Yeah. What's the second part for Aviv? Shema es Hadavar. Is that right? Father observed the matter. His father was thought about it or something.
Yeah, he didn't dismiss it. Right? He didn't because to understand this, to understand that statement, it's worthwhile seeing the Rashi here, right?
Rashi, no, that's on. No, where is it? It's 12. Yud Aleph Yud Beis. Rashi, V'da is Adam is son.
1 second.
Halcho Ela.
It's Yud Aleph, right? Yud Aleph. The Shomer David.
Oh, Yud Aleph.
Yeah.
Shama Hadavar Hayar Mematin Umetsof Sofi Natafar Masai Yavo V'chein Shomer Amonim, and in brackets it's got yes, you'd assume or the reference. All
Yeah,
right.
read the reference, people. Just what Rashi says. What's the what he's coming to teach you about? What's his Shomer David, right?
Right. So observed. So the English translation is observed the matter. He awaited. The father awaited and looked forward to the time when this would come to pass.
He knew this was some type of prophecy, right? He understood that the dream was not just a silly old dream. So he did not dismiss it, but rather he waited. He was waiting, biding his time to see when this would all come to pass.
And in the same sense, we have in Isaiah 26:2, that watch, Shomer, for faithfulness. That watch for faithfulness, that is, for the performance of a promise. There you are. For the performance of a promise. And in Yov 14, chapter 14, Pasuk 16, law to shamor for my sin, which means you didn't wait for my sin.
Right. That's just Rashi's bringing that as a indication of what this shot is according to the Shomor. What's the Shomor? Shomor is that he was waiting. He was did not dismiss it. The sin wasn't dismissed.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Okay. Very good. All right. Thank you, Roy. That's good. That's great.
Excuse me. Yeah.
Okay. All right. So, Mitzvah Shem, I guess we'll see each other on Yom Rishon.
Yeah, I think so. Right. First Hashem.
Okay, thank you, and you should have a good Shabbos, good Shabbos. Lou, okay, we'll see you on Yom Rishon, Mitzvah Shem.
Okay, sorry I dozed off.
No problem. No problem. Okay, thank you all both, and we'll see you. Have a wonderful Shabbos.
Shabbat Shalom, good Shabbos to all and your families as well.
Amen. Same to you, Roy. All right, take care.